You're listening to Sasquatch Syndicate.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my central light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard.
And all the ape believers don't want any of the paranormal believers to say anything because they're all whacked and screwed up and we don't want them. And all the paranormal believers don't want to go to the ape believers saying, well, you're all closed-minded. You're not open to the fact that it does this and it does that.
And I look over my left shoulder and this creature is running through the woods and it's bulldozing the brush down. And I knew, man, this thing is going to get me.
Welcome to Sasquatch Syndicate. I'm your host, Chuck, out in Seattle, Washington, along with Paul in Portland, Oregon. Thanks to everyone for listening and those following us at SasquatchSyndicate.com and on our social media outlets. Happy holidays, everyone, from Sasquatch Syndicate. I hope you're staying safe and warm and you're surrounded by friends and loved ones this season. And we hope to bring you a little bit of joy as we close out the year. So tonight on this year's holiday special, we're joined by Stacy Brown Jr. He's a director, filmmaker, videographer. He's been on multiple programs and does a lot to support the genre and Sasquatch and Bigfoot research in general. So we're excited to have Stacy tonight. And of course, Stacy, we really do appreciate you coming on Sasquatch Syndicate. And I'm going to let Paul kick it off. And again, please have a safe holiday and enjoy tonight's episode.
Yeah. How did you get into the subject? I mean, what was the draw? What got you? What got you hooked?
Unsolved mystery. Still interested in Bigfoot.
Okay.
Unsolved got me hooked when I was like 6 years old. That show left a long impression on me. It was just something that stuck the way it was. It's all creepy. That song is still one of my favorite songs of all time. Like the theme song to it. But just all the mysteries that were out there and the cryptids come from that show to me. So when I was young, I was on TV and I told, I've been hunting Bigfoot since about 2011. Well, I seen my best friend that I grew up with after that. He actually took my boat motor down there for him to work on. He's like, why are you lying on TV? And I'm like, what you talking about? He's like, dude, you've been hunting Bigfoot since you were 6, bro. He's like, why didn't you tell him you've been crazy your whole life? I was like, yeah. I didn't consider what I was doing as a kid, reading books and looking in the woods adjacent to my house is real. You know what I mean? So the interest was there from that show when I was a kid. Like I said, I drugged my sister and my friends out in the woods repeatedly looking for Bigfoot. And that's kind of how it all started. But then, life happened. I was a really, gifted wrestler. It came easy to me. So I kind of got away from it. I went into wrestling and, it was doing really good and doing that till, I started learning the guitar and stuff like that. And then I heard Nirvana.
Well, being broadcasting out of Seattle, I think our fans will really like that for sure. Everybody loves Cobain.
But yeah, it kind of changed my life again, So I started a rock band. We were doing well. We were starting to get on really big shows. Our average crowd at the time, our safe bet is what we called it. We could do about 160 people safely. You know what I mean? Worst come to worst, there was going to at least be 160 people at our show, which was good for some kids that were in high school, and playing in a college town, and then we're playing here at Florida State, playing the bars and stuff, and we were making good money. Like I think I was pulling in like $12,000 to $15,000 a year just from my band, and I still had a day job, but we played shows on the weekends, so it was really, really going into it and getting somewhere. I know that's, like I said, that's not a lot of money, but as a musician that plays your own song, that's making it, because like we played a lot of times where, we felt honored to be asked to play. We didn't make nothing, make beer or whatever. Then, I've seen Finding Bigfoot. Matter of fact, we were on a tour, and Rick Dyer come on the news in 2008, and he had a body in a freezer. Bought it hook, line, and sinker, brother. I was telling everybody, manager that was there, my band, the bartender, some of the other bands. It's like you're at the bar before the show starts, so everybody's kind of in the bar, hanging out. And I was telling them, hey, y'all, yep, Rick Dyer, he done did it. Bigfoot is real. I told y'all. And everybody's like, shut up, blah, blah. And, turned out that I was an idiot. But I was hopeful. I was still into Bigfoot. It was still very interesting to me. And then Finding Bigfoot came on television, and they put the lady's name on the TV. So we looked her up in the yellow page, or in the white pages. Just about how old that is. There was still a phone book out then. Got her address, called her up. She agreed to it, but it was in the summertime at that point, and she said it had to be in the fall because she was really worried about snakes. More worried than I was. So at that time, my dad had been diagnosed with cancer. He was originally going to go with me, and so he couldn't make it, and ended up asking my bass player to go. And we went, and that night had a sighting. The thing came up to the edge of the firelight while we were sitting there. I mean, we've been hearing it for a while. Come to find out, when we got to that lady's house, she was the one on Finding Bigfoot. I think it was the second episode, the Florida episode. She had the handprint on the inside of her door. Okay. I don't know if any of y'all remember that, but that was it. Bobo fell down the stairs and stuff like that. So that was where we went. And she was like, nobody's ever camped out here overnight. And I'm like, no big deal. This lady's probably crazy. But no, I think that was a big part of us actually having a sighting. Maybe the curiosity of what we were actually doing out there, way out in the woods, camping like that, because it finally ended up coming up to the firelight, and you could just see it. And so then after that, I was hooked. I was like, yep, this is gonna be the thing, It's like, hasn't this been proven? Got looking on the internet, BigfootForums.com, and if you're an outsider and you're viewing that website, back then at least, the whole thing looks like a joke, to be honest with you.
Well, if you can tell our listeners a little bit more, you're around the campfire. Can you kind of backtrack there and, what kind of a night was it? Was the moon out? How big was the fire? Were you being noisy? Where were you at? Were there a lot of people around?
So we're up in North Florida, right about 10 miles as the crow flies from the Apalachicola River. We were on a creek system called Flat Creek. And these two older people lived there, man and woman, and we showed up probably about 4:00 in the afternoon or so. We had a few hours of daylight, and they gave us a tour of the property, told us, hey, one was seen here, one was seen here, we hear all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And so then we walked the property ourselves, and we're finding structures, finding just weird placement of trees. That was the main thing. Like, I know people talk about all these huge stick structures and stuff, but there was a lot of small ones. Like, it couldn't have been no higher than my knee. You know what I mean? But it would be like, I remember one we called the scale. It was about waist high. There was a few trees that were bent over in like an arch. And then there was one limb set on top of it, and it balanced. And it balanced so long that thing had grown to that, to the other tree. There was something that kind of like grew in between it. I guess as the top tree was getting worse off, deteriorating, the bark, it kind of formed to that. So that was odd. We were like, this lady could make them, because she made point to show us one. But then, like, once we got out there in the woods further away, to where we didn't think she would go, she had lupus. Like I said, she was an older woman. And in this part of Florida, the terrain is unique. It's the only part where it's like hills. It almost looks like a smaller version of North Georgia, right? So you have hills, ravines, and like creeks and stuff like that, like fresh water, clear water, I guess. You don't get a lot of clear water in Florida. Most of it looks like sweet tea. So we walked around, went back, we cooked, and then we went for our night walk, and nothing had happened yet. We went out and sat up on this ridge, overlooking this creek. It was a little ravine, and it went back up on the other side. And at the time, I had a little FLIR thermal, the ones that got the screens on them, like the electricians and stuff use.
Mm-hmm.
So we were sitting there, and the hickory nuts were falling. We hadn't seen nothing. I had one of them little parabolics, like $30, on. We were listening. We were doing the thing. I wasn't ready for nothing. You know what I mean? Like you asked about the moon phase, I honestly can't tell you. At that time, I wasn't keeping track of that stuff. At this point, I was still very much, just an independent musician trying to do that. I was in jeans, you know what I mean? I wasn't like ready, to be having anything happen, which is when it always seems to happen. But so we were sitting there, and this time of year, the hickory nuts were falling out of the trees. Well, we noticed they started falling uphill. Okay, so which was odd. We're like, okay, hey, something might have just thrown something at us, because that thing come up the hill with some velocity. And we looked over to that side of the creek, and there was this image, this like blurry image that was moving back and forth. But those cameras aren't really good for like long range or like 50 yards. You know what I mean? You don't get no detail on what you're looking at. It could be somebody wearing clothes, because it just looks like a blob. So then we decided to go back to camp, and we're spooked at this point, and we start hearing like sticks breaking. There's something down the creek, because the spot we were camping in, there was a road that went to it that was about a mile long, and there was planted pines on both sides. The pines was about 10 foot tall. Okay, they were getting there, and so it comes out, and it's like almost like a cul-de-sac down at the end of it, a little like a circle, and that's where we camped. All edges of that circle was a steep drop. You could run down it, but it was like you had to watch what you were doing. It was good enough grade that you could hurt yourself. And we were hearing things snapping from like down below us, and we weren't getting anything on the thermal. It was like every time we walked up to where we could see downhill, it was behind a tree or whatnot like that. And so then we started hearing, footfalls, more frequently around the camp. We're getting scared, we've done psyched ourselves up that this is a Bigfoot. And then we're just sitting there at the fire on the cooler, not wanting to leave the camp again, not wanting to leave the fire. We were debating at this point, after the stuff, because it was so frequent. It was like nonstop. It was like, at first, the first few times, you kind of talk yourself out of it, but then it continues to happen. And we hadn't heard no vocalizations, if I remember correctly. We hadn't heard none at this point. Because, until we saw it, we didn't actually think, we were still trying to tell ourselves it was something else. And we were making up arguments to make us believe that way. And you got to figure, I was like 27, I think, at the time, and my buddy was over 40. The bass player was over 40. And we've been in the woods a lot, I guess just as much as every other guy that lives in my county. Nothing no different. But then we seen it. We were sitting on the cooler, and we seen it, and we looked at it, and it was just one of those things where we were just quiet. It walked up, and sounded like it was snoring. That's how I'll always remember that. He was just standing there, kind of, like it was, COPD or something. It really sounded bad. And that may have just been because how big the thing was. Now, it wasn't big like everybody describes these real muscle-bound Sasquatch. This wasn't that. This thing looked like it lived in the swamp. Wasn't nothing pretty about it. I can understand why the people think they stink. I've never smelled, we didn't smell that one. So I couldn't tell you, that it stunk, but it looked like it had to have stunk. I guess the best description I can have would be the image that's on the Boggy Creek poster, because he's lanky. The thing's real lanky, and the hair wasn't as thick as, I guess, what you're led to believe, what you see in Hollywood. Like I said, he looked like he lived in a hot swamp. He was kind of mangy looking, real nasty, but it just stood there. Not really sure about how long it was. I want to say, 5 to 10 seconds. It felt like it was longer. You know how that goes. But then it just turned around and walked off. But it didn't stop, And even before we had saw it, it would make these noises. You would hear the footfalls, and then you would, shine a light. And it would be behind a tree. And you'd sit there and just hold it on that. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to wait you out. I remember doing that. I'm going to wait you out. You're going to come out from behind that tree. And I'm holding that light, as long as I can. And then I just, whatever, I'm going nuts. Turn it off. Footfalls start back up again. The thing waits you out, very patient. But after we've seen it, it just, it kept it up. It was breaking sticks around there and stuff. And then it just kind of went away. So we went to bed. My buddy had started drinking. I had a few drinks after we saw it. I'm not gonna lie to you. He had brought alcohol anyways. He had brought him a 12-pack. But we hadn't drank at that point. But after we saw it, he was very, concerned, very scared. But it wasn't coming in close. It wasn't nothing that seemed like it was harmful. And then we went to bed. So we're sleeping in the tent. I want to say 4:30, somewhere around then. I wake up to him screaming, and the top of the tent is probably 6 to 8 inches from my face. Because we're in this 2-man tent. We were supposed to sleep in separate tents. We had 2 tents set up, but we slept in that one tent. And he's screaming. I wake up, the top of the tent's there right above my face, and then it just kind of lets go, and you hear it run off. It was like the thing almost didn't know what the tent was or something. But it pressed it. It broke one of the poles on it, because it only had 2 poles anyways. But when you pushed down on it, I guess it, it kind of frayed it, broke it, wasn't a clean break. But anyways, he went and got in his truck, and I didn't go back to sleep. I remember sitting there and waiting, but he went and locked himself in his truck. I didn't want to get in the truck because I didn't want the possibility of seeing it, like looking at me while I was asleep if I had nodded off in the truck. I was like, no, I don't want to be looking at that thing when it comes up that close. So we got up, got going, went into town, didn't really say nothing. I called my dad and then told him what was happening. And he's like, I said, I think we're going to come home. And he's like, hold on, you mean to tell me that you found where Bigfoot is at and now you're going to leave scared? He's like, don't leave, he's giving me crap because he couldn't be there. He's like, you need to stay. So we stayed, and, because it didn't hurt us. It didn't really do anything aggressive to us. So we're like, okay, hey, the thing's not, it's just curious. Let's go out there and see if we can get some evidence. So we went back in the woods that day, found more stuff. The further we got into the woods, found more tracks, breaks, tree twists, a lot of that. And then more of these little structures. The structures were really neat. And then that night, as soon as it got dark, it all started again.
So Stacy, you're in this area where you've had some activity and you're out there, and I've kind of had that kind of same experience, but did you have the sixth sense or hair on your neck you're being watched, or anything's keeping tabs on you while you're out there poking around?
Now I assume the things are probably watching us all day long. We never knew it, but as soon as it got dark, they sure got comfortable, and nothing that eclipsed the first night happened the second. There was the only thing that did happen is it ended up making a vocalization probably 50 yards from the camp. I mean, it's still right up on us, but below us at the same time. It was just kind of like down in this ravine, breaking stuff, walking around, coming up and looking and going back down. But it made a vocalization, and it got a reply, like a type of a scream. But it got a reply from further away, from like probably a mile away, which was, then we're like, oh, wow, there is a lot of them out here. We were freaking out at that point. But that was it, man. We left the next day, and I was hooked from there out. There was nothing else I wanted to do with my life. I figured at that point, I was like, hey, I was into this when I was a kid. I'm one of these people, it's like it's meant to be type thing. So I was like, I was supposed to have that encounter. This is what I'm supposed to do. And I quit my band. Sold one of my vehicles to buy equipment, and went into it head first.
So after this first night, you're out there and, you have this encounter. I mean, what was going through your head? I mean, how scared were you kind of going into night two?
Okay, so I had a .44 Magnum, Ruger Red Hawk. Okay, it's a big gun. Reason I got it is because you could beat somebody with it if you run out of bullets. Right? I mean,
yeah, you're an informed shopper there, Stacy.
Yeah, right. So, but yeah, so that thing went from being in the vehicle to then being on me all time. Like, I can't explain it. It was like, up until we saw it, it was like, you're psyching yourself out. You know what I mean? And you don't want to believe it. I understand where people are coming from when you say that it's crazy these things don't exist. And you believe in that. Hey, I was that person. But when you are having that encounter, and it goes on for hours. Now, mind you, this went on for probably 6 hours, and was pretty frequent in some spots. It would die down a little bit, but it's like an adrenaline rush. But at the same time, it's almost like you feel helpless. I mean, there's a part to it to where this thing wants to kill you. It's done. You're not going to get to that truck in time. I don't care if you get in the truck. Like, what good is that going to do you? You know what I mean? That was the thought process through my head. So it's like, hey, we're good so far. It's kind of like walking up on a dog that you know will bite you. You just kind of, like, I used to work for UPS, and you come around that corner, you see that pit bull, and it's like, oh, all right, buddy. You know, you're just watching, but you're scared at the same time, and you're expecting the worst. I don't. Once you have it, and that's where you have these people like myself, where it becomes an obsession, the feeling of that. Because there's also the part in it, though, like, hey, I just seen something special. You know what I mean? And some people, that's why I think they don't tell people. They don't want to get ridiculed, but at the same time, it's like a PTSD moment. It's like you just seen something horrific. You think then, or you may look at it like you've seen something special, and then you dive off into it like I did, because, like, seriously, it cost me my first marriage. Like, I don't know how to explain that to somebody, but it was an obsession. Probably not a good one. You know, I went in and like met on there was some table they had where they were thinking of new ways to improve the company, and I went up in there and was like promoting 12-hour shifts, and then we went to 12-hour shifts just so I'd have more days in the woods. So, like, straight up, you know, diving all into it like a crazy man, and it costing me certain things in my life. And there's a lot of Bigfooters divorced. Hey, maybe just a lot of people are, but I noticed that all my other Bigfoot buddies, they done been through the ringer, and it's usually over something like that.
Yeah, it's a true statement.
Yeah, you've got your wife who's like, oh my God, these things aren't even real. Why are you spending so much effing time on all this? You know, I don't know how to explain that to somebody, but it grabbed me. It was, you know, seeing it was like you jump, and then you're still looking at it and you're waiting for something to happen, but that really doesn't happen. I don't know, man. You don't want to take your eyes off of it. And then after the fact, it's like, now you're running the things. Okay, I'm not crazy because my buddy says he saw it too. You know, you walk up on a big rattlesnake, you ease slowly back. It's one of those situations like, oh, but how we going to get up off of a cooler or get up out of them camp chairs? It's like sitting in a swing, you know, your butt's hanging. you ain't about to get up real quick. So it was, I don't know, man.
It's interesting, Stacy, how individuals that have seen Sasquatch, it almost turns into an addiction. It's just like a drug. And so what does that feel like? Do you need to come back with some evidence so that you can speak to it? I mean, what's the pull to get back out into the woods? Like for me, it make me sound stupid or like I guess an ass or something like that. But like, I'm one of them people that thinks everything happens for a reason. I don't believe in coincidence at all. Okay, I live my life very much like that. If there's a decision, I have a gut feeling to make a decision a certain way, I'll forget it being a smart decision or a dumb decision and go with how I feel, right? So I honestly thought I saw this thing because I was supposed to be the person to prove this. That was it. I'm like, you know, and also there was I don't know the word I'm looking for, but I guess conceited factor to it as well, because like I said, when I looked at the Bigfoot community from the outside, I was like, oh my God, this is why this thing's never been found. Everybody is dumb. Everybody's just sitting here squabbling. You know, nobody's supporting each other. They're not working together. Even the big groups, you know, that are infighting with each other and stuff. So I was like, I'm young. I'm ready to go. I can do all this stuff. You know, I can still camp out there and sleep on the ground. I can do what needs to be done.
Let's do it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to prove this. And that was it. I was like thinking, hey, I could be the one. And chasing that dream, trying to become that Neil Armstrong. That's what it was for me at first. Honestly, like Neil Armstrong, first person to walk on the moon, I wanted Stacy Brown to be right up there beside it. Now, it may sound a little extreme to people, but that's God's honest truth.
So from your encounter till now, are you frustrated in the progress you've made as a researcher, filmmaker? I mean, where are you at with it?
The problem now, you know, back then, a few years ago, I thought I knew all there was to know. Now I know enough to know that I don't know anything at all. You know, we had a long-term habituation site where I had my first encounter. Ended up, you know, securing the rights to work that property, investigate that property long-term. And then Hurricane Michael come through, and that was a done deal. You can't, you know, it's not possible there anymore. So now it's finding that next spot, because every now and then, you know, we're most of the time trying new spots. The one spot that we do have that we're working, it's like 70,000 acres. You know, so getting back into the swamps is a big problem. But the problem is like I don't believe these things are the same thing I believed when I started.
I mean, what did you think they were when you started, and how did that change?
I thought they were just apes. You know, I had this whole theory that we more or less evolved from them. They're very smart. They're just big. They weren't as smart as us, and we got smaller because we had the bigger brain, right? But they got bigger brain than the gorilla, you know. So they're that missing link. That's how I thought. Then the weird occurrences, the stuff that, you know, people just write off, and I don't understand why people write stuff off. Like the battery's going dead. They just be dead. You know what I mean? You just put them in. I can't buy that many bad batteries in my lifetime. Like, it's not mathematically possible. You know? And then if we don't have activity, then the batteries are good and everything. You know, activity comes around. So there was that. And we also just overlooked it and didn't look at it. I can't say overlook because I'm not sold on what they are. But then the light, the orbs, asking the orbs, you know, to bring the Bigfoots, and then there being Bigfoot activity, as in like growls, you know, wood knots, things of that nature. But the orbs really kind of changed my whole thing on them. You know, maybe the orbs aren't related to the Bigfoot. However, they seem to show up at the same time every time. You know, at least they did at that one property.
So, Stacy, one of the things we're, you know, triangulating in research is just, you know, common denominators, but orbs sometimes appear, blue, typically pretty frequent, but just curious if you saw anything like that.
I'm colorblind. Okay, so I'll give you one instance of what happened. There were 4 people there. This was my second date with my current girlfriend, so it was about 4 years ago. And we've been having luck with the orbs. We'd sit out there in the woods and ask for these things to show up, and then they would show up. So it was also the first time I met this guy named Monroe. He was my brother, or my buddy's brother, and he came out. So I took Jessica, David, and Monroe out into the woods. And we were sitting there, and me and David started talking to the woods. Hey, we'd like to see the pretty lights. Blah, blah, blah. And it's 26 minutes. 26 minutes after we asked that question, kind of northeast, about 50 yards, we seen this little orb, and it came to us. David started talking to it. Hey, come up here with us. It's okay. It's okay. And the thing slowly came to us over the course of probably 4 minutes, 3-4 minutes. It floated all the way up to us. I say floated, it looked a lot like the feather in Forrest Gump. Just kind of glided along, you know. And it came right up into us, right in the middle of us. It looked like it was going past it, and Jessica stuck out her hand Well, the thing went right up to her hand and then turned around. Now, this is, I want to say, probably double a cherry of a cigarette, maybe like a cherry of a cigar, like one of them Phillies and Fallons. So it turned around. David put out his hand. It landed in his hand and vanished. Right? So then we're sitting there, and David's like, bring Bigfoots up. Then we hear this growl, loud growl from like down in this ravine. We're like, okay, wow, that's cool. And so we sat there, kind of died off, nothing else happened. We got up, going to leave. It's probably about after an hour now. And Monroe says to David, he goes, hey, you going to leave that over here? You going to take it home with you in your backpack? As soon as he said that, that thing flew up off the top of David's head, circled us about 6 times. It flew up probably about, I guess probably 10 feet above our heads, circled us, and then flew back over to where we were, went on the ground, and went out. And after that one, that was like, okay, all right, we got to start at least paying attention. Like I say, I know enough I don't know anything. I don't know if the Bigfoots are that. Maybe the Bigfoots are apes. But I still got to pay attention to that because this seems to be a very big part of the, story to me. So I don't want to be that guy that goes in there and discredits some. Oh, no, I know they're apes. I know they're apes. No, actually, nobody listening to this show knows what these things are. You don't know the truth about it. I'd like to talk to the people that put hands on one. You ain't going to find nobody. Nobody knows. This could very much be true, and I don't want to overlook something. On one side of me, I'm hoping they're apes so that I can prove it to the world. I still want to do that. But on the other side, if they are something else, like maybe the Native Americans spoke about, how they could walk in between worlds and stuff, and then would turn into balls of light and things like that.
Sure. Yeah, what's fascinating is, as we're interviewing individuals that have had an encounter, it was shocking enough to see what they actually saw. And I don't know, Chuck, you tell me, I don't recall any encounter that we've had to where somebody didn't share something otherworldly, I guess. Dr. Johnson, came right out and on our show and said, this is the first time that I've said this, but the creature just appeared and disappeared over and over in front of my eyes, just like in the movie The Predator, how you could just see kind of a shimmering shape. And I found that was something really, really interesting when Chuck and I started speaking with people, that almost every time there was some type of paranormal activity going on.
Yeah, what I guess, Paul, to your point, of all the interviews and sighting reports we've logged, and, there's always something along with it that you're like, what is that? And so, I guess the best thing to do is just, take the data, look at the common denominators, and then derive at opinions. And we have a lot of common denominators in our database and things we've been looking at, but, you got to stay on what you can deal with from a belief system perspective, and then look at all these extra factors or variables as extraneous events. And some could be emotional, some could be physical. It's kind of like you're out in the woods by yourself at night. You'll start hearing things that may or may not be there and spook yourself out. But, once you've had one of these traumatic events, everything's more hyper sensationalized. And so I just think it's really interesting. And, coming back to the natives, they will tell you it's physical while it's here on Earth. And that's all they'll say. And I've been saying that for years. So what does that really mean? I don't know. Is it a ghost or an apparition of a spirit in the forest? Is it interdimensional? I'm not sure, but, a lot of researchers will treat it as a paranormal or ghost encounter and use different technology as well. So I'm not sure what you've tried.
Well, we actually take, I have spirit box, REM pod, and EMF meters. We do EVPs. We take everything with us now. It's not, because I don't, like I said, if I go in here, convict this man, and I've got my mind up that he's done it, I can make an argument that he's done it. That don't mean I know that he's done it, You know what I'm saying? I picked this guy in my head. So it's like, that's how I look at it. I can't pick. To be honest, if I'm going to be honest with anybody, I can't tell you that it's not, interdimensional, or I can't tell you it's just an ape. Even though my encounters, the two I had, and then when my dad got his footage, nothing really paranormal happened. I had no reason at that time to believe it, but then we started seeing the lights, and maybe it was the property, maybe it was the place, or maybe there's a lot of things like that, but we've been able to repeat it elsewhere. Just our experiments that we run, and that's basically what we do. We go out in the woods and try experiments. That's all we got, We can go out there and knock on trees all night, but I don't know how you hunt any kind of animal going around hollering, even though, like, if it's last-ditch effort and end of the night, ain't nothing happened, yeah, we'll do some vocalizations. But, like, to me, that is I don't want to do that. I don't want to run them off. Chances are they're going to know I'm not what they are. And I don't want them, to go away from that. But, and then also you miss the opportunity of them communicating with each other, I feel. So there's just a lot of experiments that we do that we try to repeat in different places. And the lights, calling the lights, is actually something we have been able to repeat. So, maybe there's something to it. We haven't been able to repeat it everywhere, but we have been able to repeat it.
Yeah, one of our friends in Portland, Jay from Ghost Minds, one of Paul's buddies, he has a lot of crosstalk and things he's picked up over the years on his spirit boxes. I was just curious, have you guys picked up anything interesting?
We did, one time we had a really good conversation with something. We asked if it was the Bigfoot. Then it said hairy. Yes. You take that as what it is. You know what I mean? Like I said, those things are, even though we do it, they're not ever going to be solid proof, but we have, gotten a few sessions where we had something weird out in the woods. We've noticed a lot of the tree twists and stuff that we attribute to Sasquatch actually have more recent ones. They show EMF readings on the trees, which is odd. But it's more or less just doing something, going through the motions, see if anything cool happens. There's this one spot that we go to, we call the culverts, in the Osceola Wildlife Management area. And it's always bad. But, we've, in those same sessions, we got like devil. I think it repeated devil about 9 or 10 times. So you never know. Those canals back in there were built by slaves, and that was all native land as well. So it could be spirits and not be the Bigfoot.
So Stacy, I know COVID derailed a lot of our projects, but I know you got some things coming up. Do you want to share with the listeners what you got going?
Okay, so my film, The Skunk Ape Lives, is on Amazon right now. We put it on YouTube, I think about a month ago. My friend Survivor Man, he posted it on his YouTube. I think it's almost got 300,000 views on there. But you can catch it on YouTube for free, or if you have Prime, for free. It's been really, good for me, as I'm getting a lot more reports since that movie come out. And I think we're about up to 700,000 rentals / views on it anyways. But it's went well. I'm making another one we start filming in January called Monster of the Mayaka. We had an encounter in 2013, and we're going back to see if we can have the encounter again. And along the way, we're just talking to, witnesses who've had these terrifying encounters with the skunk ape of Mayaka City. You can find that on social media, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. And then besides that, I got another film coming out next year that I made with Survivor Man called The Pit. Also find, trailer for that stuff online. But it's about two old war buddies who reconnect and go camping for a few days, and they end up getting swallowed up in a sinkhole in Florida and are stuck, them and their dog, no way out, and there for like 50 days. So it's like a psychotic thriller, if I had to, classify it.
Yeah, it was cool for us to see your work with Les Stroud. He's been great for us as well, and he did our all-day show back in 2016. And keep in touch with Les, and he's got a lot going on. He's director, filmmaker, producer, musician, but he's really great to work with, and he's got amazing talent and passion for the genre as well.
Yeah, we met on this movie set for Interviewing Monsters. It's on every platform you want to rent it on right now. But it's got Tom Green and Les Stroud in it, and I play Tom Green's nemesis and Les Stroud's assistant. I stole something very valuable from Tom Green. He wants it back. And Jesse Combs, the late Jesse Combs, she's in it too. So it's one of those Napoleon Dynamite type comedies. So, but yeah, that's about it. And I'm just making movies, and I'm still Bigfooting all the time. I just don't really. There's no reason to share all the stuff you find, because you know how the internet is, the trolls, and they make a lot.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there for sure. I always like reading the reviews because you always get the trolls, and they're pretty funny. I'll have to do a special on that someday. Just kind of going back and clawing through all the reviews and all the funny comments out there. But anyways, we certainly hope you stay safe over the holidays. Speaking of which, you got any big plans?
I actually took the rest of the year off, so I'm just going to sit down. I just got back from Virginia and then West Virginia on another trip, and I had to go to South Florida last weekend, so I'm not do anything but try to gain some weight.
Yeah, that should be pretty easy. All right. Well, again, a fantastic hour. Stacy, always good catching up, and keep doing what you do. I really do appreciate all your work in the genre, of course, and films, everything you've done in your appearances, research. It's been really great. So for the listeners, please check out Stacy's work. And again, Stacy, have a safe and wonderful holiday season. Thanks for coming on Sasquatch Syndicate. We really do appreciate it, and I know our listeners do as well.
Happy holidays from Stacy Brown. I hope y'all have a safe one and enjoy it.
Stacy, thanks for the hour. That was really interesting and entertaining. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, bud. I appreciate y'all having me.
This concludes our 2019 holiday special. Please make your way over to YouTube, look up Sasquatch Syndicate, and don't forget to subscribe. Please stay safe out there and believe. Thanks to all of our listeners and those that have been out to our website and those following us on social media. Sasquatch is a controversial subject, so for all the believers and disbelievers and those that will tell you they have all the answers, just remember we're flying through space at 700 miles per hour. Buckle up.